And welcome everyone. Make sure you sign in. The agenda link is at the top. The survey link and the sign-in link are both hyperlinked on the agenda. We ask that if you tweet during today's session, you use the hashtag GRECLMS. We're excited about our full lineup today. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and kick it on over to Sam for our next piece.
Thank you, Tara. Welcome everyone to our first GREC LMS Network of the year. We're excited to be able to offer this, and so great to see 30 people on and hopefully more to join in. We are happy to recognize GREC for all that they have done for our field in library media. And so we had the Castle Association, Kentucky Association of School Librarians, submitted kind of a commendation for GREC on their work with our LMS network. So this is a national recognition, and only really a handful get selected to be honored in this way. And AASL, American Association of School Librarians, selected GREC for this award as part of what they're doing to support library programs in our region and even across the state. And so we are thrilled to be able to present this at our first GREC LMS of the year. And we're excited to be able to collaborate with GREC, all the educators and professionals there. Dan Costello and Bart Flaner and Amanda Turner have been very influential in what we're doing. And so we wanted to congratulate them, present this to them, and hopefully continue the work that they are helping us do with these networks.
Absolutely. And I know I've said the GREC region and co-op was able to get this network started really first before anybody else in the state. And we've kind of been the trailblazers in that. And I know I say this every year when we meet, that we'll talk about this at state meetings and even at national meetings. Others are somewhat envious of the opportunities that we're provided, having this dedicated professional learning opportunity for our librarians throughout the state to join in, to be able to offer dedicated professional learning throughout the year. I've always said too that I feel like GREC being the one that kind of holds this for us and sponsors this for us, offers a little bit more weight and advocacy with our building and district administration, and kind of solidifies the need for us to have the opportunity to come together to learn about relevant topics in the field periodically throughout the year. It's great when we started out and we could all meet in person and have that in-person networking opportunities when we were at the GREC facility. Hopefully conditions will progress and we'll be able to do that going forward. And we'll be able to move right on. Just a reminder for today that once you log in, if you would mute mics, that would be great so that we can minimize distractions. And that if any point in time you want to unmute.
If they don't trust me by now to order what needs to be ordered for that library, I
don't think Amanda's made me a co-host yet, so I don't think I have where I can do.
And I have 26 years. I know what I'm doing.
Okay.
You don't trust me.
April, can you go ahead and mute for us, please?
No, I can't.
Thanks. So yeah, just double check yourselves. If you want to unmute as our speakers are going throughout the day and ask questions, please feel free. If you want to put it in the chat, we'll be moderating that, and we'll ask presenters questions as time allows. And as always, we're going to use the rule of 2 feet. Today, we know that when we're in our buildings, we get pulled away, we get sidetracked, and we have other things that come on. And so we definitely welcome you to just move away if you need to at any point in time. If you want to turn your cameras on for the presenters to be able to interact and see our faces, that's great. And so we're ready to already segue into our first presenter this morning. So I'm going to do this. And as many as you know, I took a new role with the Kentucky Department of Education last school year. I'm thankful that I still get the opportunity to work with our librarians in the GREC area. And I will say I have to give a shout out, because when I was placed with my school in Jefferson County, one of the first things I wanted to do was go see the library and meet the librarian. Those of you that know me know that that's my heart and my passion. And I will say that I hit the jackpot when I was placed at Englehart Elementary and get the opportunity every day to work with Charity Garnett. She is a complete rock star. She was published in Book Riot in an article last year. And I am loving the opportunity to have her as a thought partner to continue my passion for literacy here at Englehart. And so I asked her if she would join us this morning and share her a section that she did with some of our faculty on diverse text. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Charity Garnett. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Tara. You're a rock star yourself, for sure. Good morning, everybody. I am so happy to be here with you all. And I'm going to be sharing just a little bit about what we did this summer. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share with you what we did this summer with our staff here at Englehart regarding diverse text. We had 3 hours for our section in the summertime. So I'm gonna power through this. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. And my email address is also at the end so that you can communicate with me that way as well. So without further ado, let's hop in. I'm starting with a disclaimer. I just am going to be upfront that some of the things I might say might make you uncomfortable, and it might hurt your feelings about some of your favorite texts. But I would encourage you to examine why you might feel that way, and think about how we can make a difference with our students and what we are sharing with them. So let's just jump right in. Let's talk about some classics. We are all pretty aware of Dr. Seuss being sort of like a hot button issue right now, and some of his books being taken out of print. But I'm going to point out a few to you today that you might not think about. So The Secret Garden is one that we had in our school library still up until recently. But I want to share this quote with you. It says, "I thought you was a black too." Mary stamps her foot and says, "You thought I was a native. You dared. You don't know anything about natives. They are not people." Well, that isn't what we want to share with our students in 2021. And a lot of these books were published way back when things like this was okay to say. And we have to think about that, the text that we're using through a lens of the here and now. So if you have The Secret Garden in your library, you might want to check to make sure it's an abridged version, the illustrated classic version, just to make sure you don't have the real copy of it. Here are two that might surprise you, because when we talk about diversity, a lot of times it's all about race, but also we want to think about the roles of female characters, male characters, socioeconomic status, even geographical regions. So when we look at Lyle Lyle Crocodile and Bread and Jam for Francis, the adult female characters in the story are confined to the kitchen. They're just in there making food in a quote unquote woman's place, while the men are sole breadwinners. And in Lyle Lyle Crocodile, there's actually an illustration of the woman in the adult female in the story with an apron in the kitchen, and the dad's on the couch with his feet up reading a paper. So that's not something we want to portray to our female students right now, because we want them to know there's more to life than just cooking, although cooking is great. And then, of course, Dr. Seuss, If I Ran the Zoo. You can see from these illustrations that these are not accurate depictions of these cultures. So here we've got Chinamen who eat with sticks is what the book says. And so you can see these depictions are not accurate for Asian Americans, Asian Pacific Islanders. And in the original version, they are actually yellow. So this picture I pulled is from a reprint, and they did the black, white, and red. But in the original, they are yellow, like the color that's on their pants. So that is really very racist, just to put it very bluntly. And then down at the bottom here, you can see a depiction of Africans. And you can see they've got pot bellies, they're in tribal gear, big lipped. And you may know that that is a very traditional racist depiction of Africans and African Americans. So that is one that we really want to pull also because of the illustrations. I think this one probably hurt the feelings of our staff here at Engelhard the most was Little House on the Prairie. Originally, it said in one chapter, no people, only Indians live there, which implies that Native Americans aren't people. And I think what's interesting is that Harper's Publishing changed it in 1953 to say no settlers. It was not the choice of Laura Ingalls Wilder. That is something that struck me when I was doing my research. So I'm sorry to start off taking some of what could be your favorites and the classics that we grew up loving and put them in a light that kind of makes that's a little cringy. So let's take a minute and talk about what JCPS is doing as far as addressing diversity within our school collections. For those of you who might not know much about JCPS, it's huge, it's ridiculously large, and it can be pretty difficult to monitor all the collections. So what we've developed was a diversity audit, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of the work group that initiated that work. So the work group was a group of 7 library media specialists here in JCPS. There were 3 elementary, including myself, 2 middle and 2 high. Teachingbooks.net did a collection analysis. We also looked at Mackin, and I'm drawing a blank on what the other one was that we looked at to try and use. But Teaching Books was the most comprehensive and had the most categories for diversity. So it pulled our MARC records and looked at every single print title in our collection. And from that, we have a collection of about 9,000 print titles here at Engelhard. And only about 2,900 titles had some kind of diversity tag. And I'm gonna show you these results. Tara, can you still see those results? Do they pop up? Okay, good deal. So you can see overall, our percentages were not very high. Majority of our students at Engelhard are African American, and we only have 169 books out of that 2,900 that met that diversity tag. If you go down even farther, you can see we have 17 books that represent girls and women in diversity, 3 for South Asian, 3 for LGBTQ. So our overall diversity was only 11.84%. And a pretty good size collection for the amount of students we have and the size of our school. So looking at that and considering what I learned from that audit process, sorry, I need to, there we go. What we learned from that audit process was that we had low diversity percentages overall. And so based on the results of that, it impacted our purchasing for our own library collection. And I am very pleased to say that we have already made some great dents in LGBTQ and the women and girls category. In just a minute, we're going to talk about publishing in children's literature, which, as you may know, is a whole different issue because it's hard to increase diversity when diverse books aren't being published in certain areas like Pacific Asian Islander and Native American, and those areas in particular. So you might notice that religion wasn't included in our diversity audit. That was because we're in the middle of a nonfiction weeding process. And so we had pulled a ton of religious books. And so we were waiting for those to come in. So those aren't included in there. Other schools did do that. And so like I said, it impacts the purchasing for our library collection. And just to give you a quick plan, a quick view of our plan, which is linked in the slides. So if you want to go back and take a look at this, you're more than welcome to. We need about 300 books over the next several years, but because of some budgeting things, we're able to do a little bit more. So this year in particular, I am focused on improving our women, LGBTQ+ and Latinx diversity. to get about 78 more books there. And all of this bumps up our overall percentage. The goal is 25% for JCPS elementary libraries. And so I'm working towards that over the next 5 years. So you can see every year there's a different area. In year 4, it goes back to repeat in hopes that the publication of those texts will improve as well. So you can take a look at that a little later if you are interested in seeing what our particular school plan is. And when we think about our collections overall, we have to think about the reflection of our students. And so my goal is to make our collection reflect our students more accurately, as well as present them with other points of view that they may not have much experience with. As I stated earlier, most of our students are African American, and from, I'll say, lower middle class to poorer communities. So we are focused on making sure they have access first and foremost to high quality text, and then making sure that they are reflected in those. So looking ahead to what's in children's books, you can see from 2018, these numbers are abysmal, to put it very kindly, especially when it comes to American Indians and First Nations, Latinx. And if you look very closely, there were only 23 books in 2018 published that featured American Indians. And it's interesting to think that more books are created with animals than with characters of color. And so if we take a look at that and push on into 2019, Tara and I both agree that this graphic is not nearly as much fun as the other one. But taking a look at this, you can see some improvement, but in First Nations and Native Americans, it's still 1%. We're still very low in a lot of these areas. And in fact, if we go back, animals increased. So we're still struggling there too. And when we, sorry, I have motion sensor lights. So if it suddenly got dark around me, sorry, they'll come back on eventually, hopefully. If not, oh well. So you can see that it's hard to increase diversity in a collection when they aren't being published, when the texts just aren't there. So that's part of the reason why I chose a 5-year plan. Some schools chose 3-year, but it's important too that we always have our eyes open for those kinds of texts. And so I keep talking about text and developing collections, and I want to give you a window into how I'm choosing what books we incorporate into our collection that are diverse. And so here's just 10 quick ways to analyze a children's book for racism and sexism. Number 1, just like with Dr. Seuss, check your illustrations. If you see something in there that does not accurately represent what we know to be true about a certain group, that might be women, that might be African Americans, it might be Asian Pacific Islanders, don't use it. And in a lot of the groups, the high school folks talked about using some of those books to, especially in like social studies, to initiate some conversations. At the elementary level, for us, we are planting that seed. And so we don't typically initiate those conversations. Instead, we focus on positive reflection. So check your illustrations first and foremost. Check the storyline. In the storyline, now it's blatant racism and sexism aren't like we saw in Little House on the Prairie and Secret Garden. They aren't as prevalent, but it's subtle sometimes. So think about what success looks like in a story. To gain acceptance or approval, do the characters of color have to excel in sports? Do they have to do something extraordinary to be considered successful? One of my favorite books that came out several years ago is called A Bike Like Sergio's. And he finds a $100 bill in the grocery store and he's going to buy a bike just like his friend Sergio. Well, success in that story does not look like him buying the bike and he's got a bike just like Sergio's, but then he feels guilty and tries to give the woman back the bike or the money. And she says, "Oh, it's okay. Thank you for being honest." No, that's not what happens at all. He gives the woman back the money. She says, "Thanks, kid." And the story ends. Like, that's it. But success in that story isn't this fluffy, happy, he got the bike anyway. It is realistic. the woman needed $100 for her groceries, and he did the right thing. And so thinking about that, nothing extraordinary happened. He didn't do anything extraordinary except be honest. And that was his success. And so we have to pay attention to that. And also we have to look at who's the problem in the story. Is it a person of color? Is it always a girl who's trying to do boy things? When we think about those storylines, sometimes they're so subtle that we might not pick up on it, but kids are so intuitive and they're so with it. And they will say, well, how come it's all the kids that have brown skin? Or how come it's all the girls that are, so we want to pay attention to that. The third way is to look at the lifestyles. Are people of color or people in different ethnic groups, are they, I lost my place in my notes. Sorry. Are they depicted in a way that's unfavorable or outside of what would be normal? We just want to pay attention to that as well and look for inaccuracy and inappropriateness of cultures outside the dominant white society. So we want to make sure that goes back to that illustrations as well. We want to make sure that what we know to be true about different cultures and groups is represented accurately. And I know I'm moving fast. I'm here for questions at the end. Weigh the relationships between people. Look at how families are depicted. Are they only, 2-parent household, mom stays home, dad goes to work and is the sole breadwinner, 3 kids, and a white picket fence. In African-American families, is the mother always dominant? That is an age-old stereotype where the woman, the Black female character is strong and she's taking care of everybody. Or in Latinx books, are the families always struggling? Are they always portrayed as needing money and poor? If the family is separated, are societal conditions such as employment, poverty, cited as reasons for the separation? And this is a big one, especially here at Engelhard, because of our demographic and community. We are dealing a lot with gender identity. And so looking at how genders are portrayed in our text as well. Because I'm going to show you a few books in a little bit to help address that. Okay, I have to be honest. I love The Help. I cannot lie. It is a movie that I will put on if I'm having a bad day. It's a movie if I need to take a nap, I can put on. I just love Viola Davis and Octavia Spencer and Emma Stone. It's got some of my favorite folks in it. However, who are the heroes in that story? Well, at first glance, you think, oh, well, it's Viola Davis, it's Octavia Spencer because she baked that pie. But in reality, it's Skeeter, because she's the one who gets them to write their stories, who gets the book published, who gets things to start to change and gets Viola Davis's character eventually to leave. So that is something, and even Viola Davis has stated that it is one of those movies that she kind of regrets making because it does uplift that mammy stereotype that was so prevalent. And so while it is a historical fiction sort of movie, we want to make sure that we look at it through that lens. And when we look at books that we're sharing with our students, looking at those stories through that lens. Who is the hero? Who is saving the day? Is it always a white male? Is it always someone who is cisgender? Is it always someone who has the money, who has the things that they need? Paying attention to that is extremely critical, because I found that to be more of an issue in some newer text. So that's been something coming up. Consider the effect on a child's self-image. If a kid who is Muslim is reading a book about a Muslim character, how is that going to reflect on them if the character is constantly being picked on and having a hard time? I'm going to show you a great new series that is perfect for if you have Muslim students. And it really has a positive self-image. Too many times our students of color are shown as struggling or facing adversity or striving for success or hope. And that's damaging to a child's self-image. Consider your author or illustrator. What qualifies them to deal with the subject? I'm not saying that people can't write about different races, cultures, groups of people, but have they done their research? Have they had experiences that make them qualified to teach a particular subject or to write about a particular subject? Lauren Tarshish does a ton of research before she writes her I Survived books. She goes to the places, she does all kinds of things to make sure that her books are accurate and portray the characters accurately. So when she wrote The Battle of Gettysburg, she made sure that she was talking with people to help her be qualified to write that story. So just keep that in mind as well. Note the author's perspective. So no author is wholly objective, but make sure that as you read that their perspective doesn't substantially strengthen or weaken the value of the book. Beware of loaded words. This one's tricky because sometimes it's a character saying something about another character. Sorry, my lights went off again. So we want to look out for words like lazy, savage, conniving, superstitious, treacherous, wily, crafty, docile, backward. I was actually reading a book to see if we should use it or add it to our collection, and it mentioned that we don't talk to the hill people, they're backward. And I thought, well, that's no, we won't be adding that one because that's not true. So we just want to be very aware of the language that authors are using as they write about different characters and things of that nature. And last but not least, if all else fails, check the copyright date. Our collections need to be up to date anyway. So check your copyright dates and make sure that the books that you're using are current so that the information in them, illustrations, are also current. Whew. Okay, I've got about 5 minutes, I think. Oh, I have 9 minutes. My clock in here is fast. All right. So I'm going to power through some diverse text I'm loving right now because, I mean, it's cool to hear about steps to take, to analyze for racism and sexism and talk about diversity of work groups and all that stuff. But really, let's be honest, we're here for the books. So I'm going to start with Milo Imagines the World, which is one of my favorites from the past year. Milo is a little boy. He's on the bus with his sister, and they are on their way somewhere. You don't know where they're going. And as Milo sits on the subway, he notices people. So he notices a woman in a wedding dress, and he starts to draw. And he draws this. Oh, sorry, that's not the right page. There we go. He draws her and a groom, and they're floating away in a hot air balloon. And it's all so lovely and wonderful. But then something happens, something changes. And by the end of the story, the way Milo imagines the world has totally changed. And this is by Matt De La Pena, who also wrote Carmela Full of Wishes, Last Stop on Market Street. And it's illustrated by Christian Robinson, who is my illustrator crush. So of course he had to make it in. But this is a fantastic one if you don't have it in your libraries. Another one we just got in is called The Arabic Quilt. And if you think about One Green Apple by Eve Bunting from several years ago, it really kind of gives off that vibe. It's an immigrant story, so there's our diversity, but she's an immigrant from Egypt, having a little trouble fitting in, but the way that the author writes it is beautiful and really embraces the culture, the Egyptian culture. So this is a great one too. I'm excited to share it with some students here soon. Another one that is very, very recent is called Let Me Fix You a Plate. And that's what my grandma always says when I go visit her. It's like, oh, are you hungry? Let me fix you a plate. You know, grandmas are always trying to feed people. And so in this story, a family is on a road trip and they take off to West Virginia. And in West Virginia, they get to the quiet mountains and grandma says, let me fix you a plate. And there's, blueberry jam and toast. And there's just these warm home foods. And they get back in the car and go further. And you find that they're going to Florida to visit the mom's family who's Hispanic. And it talks about their culture and what they're eating. And it's just so sweet because the subtitle here is A Tale of Two Kitchens, and one kitchen is quiet and, there's the mountains, you can hear the crickets, and the other one you can hear laughter and the sun is hot. And it's just a really great story to explore two different sides of families because, a lot of our kids are coming from different ethnic backgrounds. They're mixing ethnic backgrounds. So this is a really good one. And at the end, they go back home to New York and have pancakes. So I loved that. I thought that was a sweet little tie-in at the end. So that is Let Me Fix You a Plate. So when we talk about diversity, I mentioned earlier that we want to cover all our bases. We want to cover poverty. We want to cover cultural, geographic location. And I don't know about you all, but a lot of our kids here live in apartments. They live in places that don't have chimneys. And so when I saw this book, I thought I have to have it. Now, disclaimer, it is called Santa in the City. And we do quite a bit with winter holidays. So this ties in with us pretty well because we cover quite a bit. But Santa in the City is about a little girl, and you can see she's a main character of color, which is thumbs up. But she is trying to figure out how Santa's going to get to her because she doesn't have a chimney. She lives in an apartment. How's he going to even get on the roof? That kind of thing. And it's just a sweet story that I know a lot of our younger ones have asked me when we're reading different stories. Well, see, I don't have a chimney. How's Santa going to come into my fireplace? I don't have one. So this is a great story for that because it does address that housing difference that some students experience. My Two Border Towns is more relevant now than it has been ever because we are currently facing a border crisis. And in this story, a young Hispanic boy and his father every Saturday go across the border and they do various things. They get supplies, they go and they come back and forth. But the most important thing they do is they stop at the asylum and drop off things to their friends and families who are there. And so this is a really great story that helps humanize what's going on at the border, because I think sometimes we see it on TV and we just say, oh no, that's terrible, or, you know, whatever we say, but this humanizes it quite a bit. And I really think this is a good one to add to collections. And another favorite is not super new, but it came to me more recently, What Riley Wore. If you aren't familiar with this, it's a great book. And when we use it in our session here, we actually, I let people read it. And then I said, so is Riley a boy or a girl? And they were like, because it never specifies. Riley just wears what Riley wears. And it's one of those stories that really connects well with gender identity. So this is a great one, all ages, because it really kind of helps you think a little bit. Okay, I got 3 minutes. Over the Moon is another one that addresses poverty, talks about coal mining, which I think is great for our Kentucky kids, because we do have some, kids over in Eastern Kentucky that deal with coal mining, and that as a really big issue. So this is a great one that helps deal with some of that socioeconomic diversity as well. Mindy Kim and the Yummy Seafood Business. Mindy is Korean and she wants to eat what she wants to eat. Kids are kids. They aren't very kind about it. And she turns it around for the good. Sadiq and the Green Thumb is another one that is about Muslim students. And he has to go to religious school instead of playing sports and having fun in the summer with his friends. And that is so true for so many of our students here at Inglehart that are Muslim. They have to go to religious school and it's very strict. So this is a great one to help them make connections. I am going to skip to my nonfiction really quick. There's 3 more on there that are great if you have an opportunity to look at them. Unspeakable, the Tulsa Race Massacre is one that is very new as well. And it addresses the Tulsa Race Massacre in a very tasteful way to bring it to children because it's a horrible tragedy that is just now really being recognized in American history. So this is a great one. For your middle grade readers, Stamped for kids. I read this first before I read Stamped for young adults. And it is fantastic, presenting a pretty tough issue in a very clean-cut way. I didn't agree with everything they said, and I don't know that you would, so and that's okay. But it's great to have those little sections to pull out for kids because there's some great history in this text. And then the last one I want to present to you is Stonewall, about the Stonewall riots. It is a great introduction to LGBTQ rights and how that came to be. Also beautifully illustrated. And am I right on time? I am right on time. So thank you so much for letting me just have verbal vomit with you all for a little while. Please contact me with any questions. I'm happy to help. My email address is there. And if we want to Zoom again, I'm happy to do that as well. Thank you so, so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Charity. I appreciate you taking the time this morning to come and join us. And I mean, I just love the book talks. We all love anytime we hear another colleague talk about things. One extension of this, I will tell you, like Charity said, she did a 3-hour PD for our teachers, and it was very eye-opening for them. I mean, me, even with all my years, it was like, oh my gosh, some things I had not even thought about. But she took it the next step after she kind of talked with them about it. And she had book bins ready for teachers to engage in a book tasting regarding these diverse texts. And so I definitely want you to reach out to her if you have questions, if you have what more information and insight on this, because again, opening our teachers' eyes that we collaborate with in and day out, and knowing about their classroom collections is just as important as our library collections. So definitely her contact information is on there. One question came in the chat, Charity, while we were talking. If you could give us the contact information for also the middle school, high school librarians who are on that diversity. If you want to just shoot that to me, I'll make sure I include it and pass that along. So I'm sure some of the middle school and high school, I know we had Adrienne Lane from Central come and talk to us last spring, and she was on that, but that gives them somebody to reach out to who's entrenched in the work. So we thank you very much.
Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Real quick, we've got Deidre Bowling-Mead up next with our Castle news and updates, but I do know that Dr. Dan Costello has joined us. So we're going to segue back to where we were at the beginning and just again, give him a moment to say something, because like we said, as Sam mentioned, we are so thankful for what Greg provides our librarians here in this area. And of course, they were recognized on the national level by AASL with the certificate of commendation for this work. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dan Costello, if he'd like to say a few words.
Hey, Tara, thank you so much. I appreciate what you all are doing. You and Sam, man, you all are killing it with this network. I know you're doing so many great things. I'm in about 3 places at once. There's another network going on right now. There's a meeting going on in the back that I just came out of. So I'm just kind of running around. So I'll be popping in and out. But I love seeing the work that you all are doing. And you all, I'm so excited to see. We've got 48 people, and that's, of course, includes me and you and Sam, but still over 40 people in this network meeting, and that's just fabulous. So I appreciate your participation. I know it's hard, man. Your principals got your schedule all day long. You got classes coming in and out, and it's hard to break away, but I'm glad you either make the time or that your principal allows you the time to step away and be a part of this network. So I'm excited about the work you're doing, and anything we can do here at CREC to support you all, please reach out anytime.
Well, again, we appreciate you guys. And as I've mentioned, I know that having the support of GREC a lot of times leads to principals and admin being more willing to allow the librarians the opportunity to engage in this professional learning that's dedicated topics of interest at this time. So thank you all for your support.
Absolutely. We love what you're doing. We love, just excited about this recognition that you all got. Sam sent it to us a few weeks ago, and he's like, hey, we got this. And so I was talking to Bart and a few people around here. And so just happy to support you all. And it's really what you all are doing to make this work. We're just happy to kind of be a vehicle to let it run.
Thank you again. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Castle president, Deidre Bowling-Mead, and she's going to give us some updates and save the dates that she has.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Tara and Sam. I just wanted to come in and just introduce myself and show you some things that we have going on. I know on your agenda, Tara has linked some of the information that I wanted to share with you. I'm just going to share my screen because all of this can be accessed from our Castle website. So here in just a second, I'll show that. If you aren't a Castle member, right now we have a promotion going on. We're going to have some drawings the next 3 weeks. If you are on the listserv, you might have caught our membership chair, Rhonda Bell, and her crazy video with our spooktacular thing going on. So we're having drawings this week. It's a great opportunity. We're trying to have some more professional development for you all because I know it's difficult to find library related PD, but you're all lucky that you have this wonderful network that you get to have this. But we're having drawings if you renew or become a member this week, and only Castle members can be a part of the mid-autumn meet, which we're having on November the 9th, and we're having two wonderful authors who are KBA presenting that day, and I'll show you that information as well. So to be a Castle member, you get access to that and our spring meeting, which those authors are to be determined, but they will be KBA authors. And then you get your discounted rate at Summer Refresher this year. And I hope you'll join us. It's on the other end of the state for you all, Ashland, Kentucky, but we have some wonderful state parks, and we're actually getting the largest Malibu Jacks, so you can bring your kids out for that. We just have a lot of great things to offer here in Ashland, and we're excited for you to come. So let me share my screen really fast and make sure I can do this. Okay, let me see. Okay, so you can see the Castle page, right? So to access Castle, it's castle.us. In the middle is how you join Castle. You join KLA and then choose us as your side. I don't know the proper word choice right now, but it's $65. So you can't beat that new flat rate for everyone. A challenge might be for you all to ask your lead of technology in your district to pay for it, or your school principal. We actually had our technology director in Ashland Independent Schools pay for all of the librarians to be Castle members and part of our eCastle group. So that was a big accomplishment for us this year that had never been done before. So that might be a challenge if you're struggling with getting funding. Check your technology person. They might have the extra funding that you need. So you can click in the middle for that. Our special announcements are here in the middle. This is the mid-autumn meeting that I wanted to mention to you. And even if you're not middle or high, these authors, anytime that there's a grade school author, I have always been able to find information, and they are just inspirational. So I hope that you'll join us. We've got the save the date. We have registration open for this right now. And to do that, you have to be a part of the Mighty Network. So I just wanted to show you that really quickly. It's over here to click to join. And why is this blocked on this page? I have no idea. Of course, I mean, I seriously just accessed this yesterday. So my school wants to block me on it for my presentation. So anyway, on the Castle Network, the link is on Tara's page. You join Castle. We have different subgroups that you can go to. There's an events page. I guess I could show myself now since I'm not able to show you that network. But if you go to it, you can ask me if you have any questions, but you register in the Mighty Network, and then we have subgroups. If you need a mentor, we have a section for that groups. There's different pages. If you are a high school librarian, you can access that page, or middle school. This is our big networking initiative that we're trying to get all of our information out on the Mighty Network. And so it's our goal, hopefully, that you can access that and network with each other. It's kind of a cross, I call it, between Blackboard and Facebook. We can share documents there. We can have chats, and that's where the information for all the Zoom will be. So try to schedule a time to look that over and register for the mid-autumn meeting. And you can let me know if you have any questions about that. I'm sorry again that my page is blocked today. Does anyone have any questions for me? No, that's fast. I was trying to stay in my time.
And in the chat box, I've shared the links that you've talked about, our website, Mighty Network, and how to join. So it's also in the agenda. So thank you for sharing all that with us.
Okay. Thank you all for having me.
And we all know,
If you need, I want to know how we can support you this year. So please reach out. My email's in your agenda too.
Perfect.
thank you, Deidre. Appreciate you joining us and super excited about the opportunities Castle is providing members for ongoing professional learning throughout this year as well. Next, we will segue straight to Renee Hale, who is our Kentucky Bluegrass Awards co-chair, and she will be providing some updated resources to go along with this year's Kentucky Bluegrass Awards selections.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. Actually going to undo that because I'm echoing in my own ears. So anyways, if you don't know me, I'm Renee Hale. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Kentucky Bluegrass Awards, and Beth Atkins is the other co-chair, and she could not be here today. So it's my turn. So you get to listen to me. So yay for you. Here we go. I always like to start off with our mission statement of the KBA, because we want you to know that the master list committees work really, really hard to provide age-appropriate book lists that cover a well-rounded list of books that are quality, diverse, and high-interest titles. You can connect with us online, Facebook, and Twitter. We do tend to post most of our information on the Castle website. We are semi-active on Twitter, and I will be the first to admit the Facebook page is not very active because the Facebook page system, if you host a Facebook page, you might agree with me, they've changed a lot of things, and I have not been able to really figure it out. So that is something I need to work on. These are your dates to remember. The master list, this is the big news of the year. The master list for next school year are going to be released early. They're going to be released March 11th, which is about a month earlier than normal. If your district is like my district, you cannot spend money after March 31st. So our thought was, if you have any extra funds at the end of the school year or the end of your purchase year, you'll be able to go ahead and order those master lists to have them on the first day of school next year. The voting will be March 14th to April 1st, and then the winners will be announced April 11th. We're hoping that will be after most spring breaks. Book grants will also be open again in May. And then, of course, we'll have KBA sessions at Summer Refresher next year in Ashland, Kentucky. So we have a new KBA resources page. We moved it off of the WordPress site, which we, Beth, Aaron Weaver, and I found kind of hard to use. So Aaron and Beth turned it into a Google site. This link is active. If you have, if you go to the agenda, you can get this presentation, but it's also bookmarked on the Castle website. You can apply for a KBA committee. We're always looking for committee members. Committee members read and review at least 20 titles each year. Now, I'm a reader for the middle school committee and the high school committee this year, and I have already read a combined total of almost 50 books. So just because you have, we say that we review 20 books, we really review more than 20. 20 is just like the minimum we expect a committee member to review. You can also nominate a book. We are also, we know a lot of you are readers, and we know you have amazing books to share also. So you can go to the Castle site and head over to nominate a book as well. We try to keep things current. So for next year's list, we are only accepting or considering books published in 2020, 2021, and 2022. So don't get those 20s mixed up. Here are your preschool titles. And as I'm going through these slides will be very fast, the next 5 slides. So if you are reading these books currently with your students, be sure to shout out which one is your favorite in the chat box. So this is the preschool list, the K2 list, the 3-5 list, the 6-8 list. And this is a really good list. I don't think I could even tell you which one of these books is my favorite, except it probably is Blackbird Girls because I'm a big historical fiction nerd. So that was probably my favorite. And then this is the high school list. We have a Castle shop. And, I advertise pretty frequently on the KYLMS listserv. Any proceeds that we get from the Castle shop benefits the KBA book grants. So it's not like we're keeping your money. We are giving it right back to you. And the mid-autumn meeting, Deidre mentioned the mid-autumn meeting. We have Ann Blankman and Carl Duker. Both are fabulous and both are so excited to join us for an evening now to share their books and how they write. Now we will have a spring summit in March or April. I honestly don't remember the date. And we are looking for a K2 and a 3-5 author. So even if you aren't a middle or high school librarian, you should totally join in. Blackbird Girls could easily go into an elementary library. If there's nothing too much, you know, for an elementary library. Book grants. We were able to provide 18 book grants for this year. So over the summer, Castle, Mackin, Permabound, and Children's Plus all donated books for the book grants. So we will offer them again. The amount of book grants we offer depends on the amount of sponsorships from our sponsors. So if you win a book grant, be sure to thank them. There are a lot of times that comes out of our vendors' pockets. So make sure you thank them. And just to end, this is our contact information. You can always email myself or Beth or that KBA coordinator, that Gmail account. Now, she's a middle namer like me. So her name is Beth, but her email is Maria. I've been around so long that I got to pick my name on my email. So you get to see my middle name right there. And that's all I have. Unless you have any questions, I'll open up the chat box real quick.
We did have one, I love this idea, high school doing a book study with freshmen gifted and talented students. What an amazing opportunity to enrich our higher learners. That could just as easily be done bringing it back down to our elementary, middle school. We're always looking for inclusivity items to include on students' GSSPs. And so by offering, you know, like an advanced book study, lit circle with a group, I think that's a phenomenal idea and way to get, you know, we know that sometimes it's harder to grab some of our high school readers. So a way to do that. I'll also say with this being our first meeting of the year, we might have some brand new librarians on the call. And I always give a shout out to the KBA resources page because it's literally a crowdsourcing opportunity where if you are a new librarian and you want to pull this program in, if you have the way of getting those books in, even if it's just one copy of each that you can do a read aloud, or you can collaborate with a classroom teacher to get these books read to students. There's all types of teaching and learning activities to accommodate. And you've got ready-made lesson plans for a long period of time that's with books that students have, that people have already peer reviewed and selected, that they've included activities to engage your readers. So definitely reach out to our KBA coordinators or others, check out their site for what they offer, and definitely bring those into your library. So we have, I think you all try to set the bar every year and break the previous year's records with voting, with participation numbers, and each year the committees knock it out of the park with the books they select. So I want to give a shout out to Renee and Beth and all of those that serve. I know we've got even several committee members that are members of the GREC that serve on the readership and selection committee. So thank you guys.
One little behind the scenes thing that I forgot to include in this presentation. So we report each quarter how many books have been read total by all the members. And just from July 1st to now, our readers across all of the groups have read over 500 books. So
Wow. Amazing.
it's a lot. It's a lot of books being read.
Yeah. And so again, that goes back to, thinking about our diverse text. If there is a book that you're kind of not sure about, if you're new and you don't really know where to go for all of those reviews before purchasing, reach out to a member of one of our KBA committees. If it's a newer book, chances are somebody might have read it and can provide you some feedback and some information. So again, just growing this network of peers that we have to reach out to. Thanks, Renee. Appreciate you guys always for talking to us about KBA. All right, next, I have to say this is probably my favorite part of our meetings we've started. When we switched to the Zoom format, we decided that we really needed to try to hook you guys and make it where you really wanted to log in and to join us. And so our 3 meetings last year and now already kicking off this year, we've tried to seek out those experts. We all know that as librarians, authors, illustrators, they are our rock stars. We fan over them all the time. And so we've tried to include an author or an illustrator or a featured speaker in our sessions. And so this session today, I'm super excited. We have illustrator James L. Berry joining us today. I've had the opportunity to meet James many years ago when I served as the Castle president. I brought him in as the featured Castle speaker for our fall conference. And he was amazing then. He continues to do amazing work, and he is joining us today. And so he's going to talk about his work and also the new the new Warriors comic series that he is the illustrator for. So James, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Great, thank you. It's good to see you. Can you hear me okay?
We can. You are good.
Okay.
If you need or want to share your screen, you can do that as well.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I enjoyed hearing some of the earlier presentations, so that was nice. I'm glad I popped in earlier. Yeah, so as Tara said, I am an illustrator. I do storyboards for advertising, film and advertising. I also do some editorial illustrations. But the reason I'm here to talk today is to share a little bit behind the scenes of the work I do on the Warriors series. For those of you that don't know, the Warriors series is about cats, feral cats that live in clans in the woods. And they have all kinds of adventures and romances and drama happening between their clans and each other. So it's kind of like a soap opera for cats. It's been, I mean, there are tons of books in the series. And in 2007, I think there were probably maybe 5 or 6 novels out. But in 2007, I was approached by a comic book publisher, Tokyo Pop, to illustrate a new comic story about some of the characters that appear in the novels. So that started in 2007, and since then I've illustrated like 9 black and white comics and 3 full-color graphic novels. So I'll share my screen and share a little bit of that work. Let's see here. And you can see my screen now, right? All right, so these were the first 3 comic books that I illustrated in the Warriors series. And so originally the publisher was Tokyo Pop, which was a company that started out reprinting Japanese manga. And those became really popular. And so HarperCollins and Tokyo Pop decided to do a co-pub where they wanted to use the Warriors in comic style, right, manga style. So I was one of the first American artists to be hired by Tokyo Pop to illustrate these. And they were all printed in black and white, like traditional manga comics. And these are all 90 pages long, so kind of short, but they came out like every 3 or 4 months back then. And so this story is, this trilogy is about Graystripe. And he was the deputy in the Thunder Clan. And in the process of trying to rescue his clanmates from pest control, he got catnapped and taken to live in the suburbs with a family. And so this trilogy is all about Graystripe trying to escape the suburbs and find his way back to the woods and his clan. And along the way, a house cat named Millie decides to leave her comfortable home and join him and learn the ways of the warrior clans. The next black and white trilogy I illustrated was called Ravenpaw's Path. And that is about a black cat named Ravenpaw, who he was originally part of ThunderClan, but decided to that clan life was not for him and decided to go live on a farm with his friend Barley, just the two of them. But his peace is shattered when some rogue cats invade the farm and try to take it as their home. And so Ravenpaw must return back to his former clan and enlist their help in defending his home, and realizes that he truly does have the heart of a warrior. So that was that trilogy. It came out in like around 2009, 2010. And then the third black and white trilogy I illustrated was SkyClan and the Stranger. And this one is about Leaf Star. And she is the first clan leader to have kits while maintaining control of her clan. And so that's kind of been a dramatic plot point in several of the stories. And so she, she's kind of able to balance motherhood and leadership at the same time, and also encounters, some drama when a stranger named Soul joins their clan. So those were the first 9 black and white manga comics that I illustrated. Those kind of terms are used a little interchangeably to me: comics, graphic novels, manga. But at this point, I think halfway through this trilogy, Tokyo Pop went under. They had some financial issues. And so HarperCollins took over completely, and we kind of stopped calling them manga and just switched to comics or graphic novels. So a few years after this last book came out, I was approached by the new publisher, HarperCollins, and my new editor, Stephanie
BBC program, Gardeners World, and it is.
Is this in Nashville?
Sorry. So I was approached by the editors at HarperCollins and asked if I wanted to go back and add color to the original black and white line art so they could reprint them in full color. And that's what you see here, is this trilogy of books now printed in full color, each one. Since then, I guess those did pretty well because they asked me to come back for more. And since then, I've illustrated A Shadow in River Clan, which came out in 2020, and Winds of Change, which came out this past summer, so just a couple months ago. A Shadow in River Clan is about Feathertail. She's Graystripe's daughter, and she lives in River Clan. And this book really resonated with the fans from what I've seen on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, because it's all about her dealing with past trauma and learning to trust her clanmates again. And then the Winds of Change book is about Mudclaw, a deputy who thinks he's going to be selected as the next leader of his clan. And when he is passed over for leadership, he has to deal with those feelings, rightly or wrongly, and the consequences that come with that. What's been kind of cool about these two books is that they explore characters and situations that happened in the chapter books in the novels, but from a different character's perspective, so that fans of the series can kind of learn new things about the characters and about their motivations and the plots and that sort of thing. And then currently, I am right in the middle of illustrating Exile from Shadow Clan. And this cover was just released a couple months ago, and the book will come out next summer in June 2022. But I'm about halfway through coloring it, and I have till November 15th. So I'm on a tight deadline, but it's it's coming along okay. So those are the books that I've illustrated in this series, and I wanted to share a little bit of behind the scenes information about the process. These are some of the character designs that I did back in 2007 for Graystripe. So as you can see, my style and skills evolved, as does everything. You know, the more you do it, the better you get. But these were the original character sketches, and this is kind of how the character evolved for the cover of the first book. These are character sketches for Ravenpaw. Like I said, I did those in like 2010 or something. And then character designs for Feathertail. So as you can see, my style evolved a bit, but she is Graystripe's daughter. So I wanted to maintain some of those features and characteristics that Graystripe had on his child. Some of the things that I try to include in a comic or graphic novel is a real sense of place. And I do that, I really want the audience to understand where the characters are and where they're located. So I do that with really wide, broad shots that start out a scene. And like I said, originally these were printed in black and white. So when I was able to go back and add color to these drawings, I feel like it even enhanced it a bit more because I was able to think about lighting, time of day, color schemes, that sort of thing as well. So establishing a real sense of place is important to me. There's another broad shot of Ravenpaw's home, the barn and the farm where he lives. But in addition to those big broad shots, I also like to include little details, things that a cat might find important, like, you know, the decorations on a feeding bin, or little bugs and insects, or different types of plants that a cat might encounter. Also, the things that might be in a human's home that a cat, if they run inside, might be overwhelming to them, using like forced perspective and making things seem larger than they are to us. But, you know, to a cat, they seem huge, right? So busy patterns and shapes, that sort of thing. Subjective motion is a technique common in manga comics that I adapted for our books. And the idea here is you use motion lines to make it feel like a character is moving through space so that you, the audience, or the reader, are moving along with the character. And then we have emotionally expressive effects, and whether that's done through shape, color, line, or these are called emanata, the little stars or hearts that might appear above a character's head when they're thinking about something. So these little effects are things that I try to reveal about the character through the visuals rather than through the dialogue or their body language. And then I use some techniques that you often see in film and television as well, so it goes along well with my other work. Full panels where you see a character's whole body and you can see clearly where they are, but it's tighter than a big, broad, wide shot, as well as medium shots, close-ups, and extreme close-ups. Cause and effect is another technique I like to use in comics. So you see an action happening and how what the consequence of that action is. And then I like to use the 3-panel effects sparingly, but because I think it's a really cool, effective kind of technique or trick. So you can either show a character moving through space, like you see Billy Storm, you know, climbing down the canyon over multiple panels with the same background spread across, or to show a short sequence of events. In this case, we have Feathertail fishing. She snatches the fish out of the water, or to zoom in for something on a dramatic effect. More examples of that. I don't know how tight we are for time, but motion lines, breaking the panel, sound effects, those are all common things that I like to incorporate in the comics. Do we have another 5 minutes or should I wrap it up?
No, we are good to go. You got plenty of time.
Okay, great. So now I just wanted to show a little bit about the process. So this is a really rough sketch. So first let me show you what the script looks like. So the script is, that's not it. There it is. So Dan, I don't know how much of you know about the Warriors series, but it's written by a team of people that go under the pen name Aaron Hunter. And Dan Jolly is the person that writes the scripts based on the outlines that the Aaron Hunter team gives him. So this is what a comic book script looks like. He'll break it down into panels with a brief description as well as the dialogue. So we work really well together. You know, he gives me just enough information that I don't feel confined, but yet I'm still able to, you know, let loose creatively. And I can make little changes as well if I need to add something or take something away. But getting back to the PowerPoints. So I take his script and I do a really rough sketch of the pages. And I'll do that, you know, usually in the evenings sometimes. And then the next day I'll do a rough sketch of the page where I try to incorporate the dialogue, think about the body shape as well as perspective, that sort of thing. And this is what I would send my editor. I wouldn't show the editor this. This is just for me, private stuff. But then I do the entire book at this level and send it to the editor. And from there, I get feedback from my editor about, you know, maybe they don't understand exactly what's happening on a page, or maybe there's too much dialogue on a page and I need to spread it out better. So I take their feedback and I clean it up a little bit more, whether that's by pencil or digitally. I used to do everything by pencil. Now I sketch digitally, and I'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. But once the sketch is done, the drawing is cleaned up, I am able to ink it in black and white. And so I used to trace the sketch onto a piece of paper and ink it by hand. So this is all black ink. But now I sketch it digitally, but I still want it to have that hand-drawn feel to it, right? So I sketch digitally like you might see someone do on an iPad or a computer. But now what I do is I print it out in blue ink. I don't know if you can see that blue ink. But then because it's in blue ink, I can ink right on top of it with the black artwork. And when I scan it in, the blue ink disappears. So you only get the black line art like you see here. So I'm maintaining that hand-drawn quality while saving a little bit of time by sketching digitally. And from there, I used to add grayscale, but now we go to full color. So like I said earlier, you know, adding color, I think really helps establish the lighting and the mood of a scene, as well as helping some of the readers tell which cat is which, because when they're all in grayscale, sometimes it was a little hard to distinguish some cats from the other. So I think adding color really helped with that a lot. And these are some pages from the Shadow and River Clan, a scene from that. But before we wrap up, I just wanted to go back to the script and talk about that just a bit more, because I'm guessing in addition to being librarians, I would guess a lot of you might be writers as well, so you might be interested in this aspect of it. And so as you can see here, Dan breaks it down into panels. Now the elders are closer, nudging him, touching him with their tails, expressing care and affection. He gives a brief description. So what's happened here is Night Pelt, the black cat, has just had a coughing fit. He is an asthmatic cat, and that's why he has been exiled from the clan by their cruel leader. But so he gives a description of these panels, and then we get to panel 3. It says, cut to a few days later at sunset. Long shadows stretching to the east. Zoom down, the gray twilight turning everything black and white. So when Dan mentioned that bit of information, that he wanted it to be twilight, that he was imagining it in black and white, that really inspired me as an artist to think back to when we would do the comics in black and white, in grayscale. And I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool to do this entire scene in grayscale, almost as an homage to the work we used to do, and also to set it apart from the rest of the story, because this is a really dramatic scene that's coming up. So I took this description that the writer, Dan, gave me, and I started working on this scene right here. So you can see this part is in color, right? And then we cut to this new location. The sun is shining, the trees are silhouetted, but now everything is going to be sort of grayed out, because it's that's kind of spooky time of day when the light is dim and everything is a little bit duller. So I did this entire scene. Right here we cut, this is the scene I just showed you, we cut, and the entire scene is sort of that grayscale quality to evoke that moody atmosphere that he mentioned. Just in that little brief bit of text, you know, he inspired me as an artist to take this scene and run with it. So this is what I'm working on right now. Exile from Shadow Clan. As you can see, some of it's fully colored and some of it is still in black and white, but I've got a month to do it, so I'm hard at work. But with that said, if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to try to answer them. Or
all of this just always amazes me, probably because I have zero talents when it comes to drawing. And so I'm amazed when others that have it, and it's just so real life. And so I do have to share a couple little things. One of the best things ever was literally probably the week before schools all got shut down in the infamous March of 2020. I happened to be at one of our schools in the library, and it was book fair time, which we know, especially in elementary school, every kid loves. A very reluctant fifth grade reader was in there and just happened to be looking through, and lo and behold, I walked over, and the one book that she had picked up and was enamored with was one of the Warriors comics that was actually being featured on the Scholastic Book Fair at that time.
oh, nice.
And I was able to indulge in about 10 minutes of phenomenal conversation with this young lady about how I knew the illustrator that done the graphics within the comic, and was even able to go to your site and show some of the other things. And so those are the connections that we get to make with learners. We get to hook them for that lifelong love of reading. And that makes our job easier when there's people such as you giving us the mediums and avenues to do that. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. That's nice to
Hearing
hear.
you
Well,
talk about this art process, my mind just kind of goes to, I know, like I mentioned a second ago, talking about our gifted learners. One of the areas that we can identify students as gifted and talented is in the area of art. So maybe you as librarians, if you're working with your gifted coordinator, this is an avenue to show, hey, we can go here. I know James, we've included James' website. He's got a lot of great resources and information. Literally about a month ago, I had the opportunity to collaborate with someone going in to do a substitute, like a 2-week substitute situation in a middle school art classroom. And art was definitely not their strength, and was didn't really know what to do. So we worked on tapping into her love of literacy and prior knowledge as a librarian. And she literally developed a week's worth of lessons for the middle school art students that kind of traced a trajectory of illustrations over time. And they dove into the different mediums and looked at samples of pencil versus watercolor, the old Eric Carle tissue paper. But at the end, I said, okay, now save this for Friday, but move them into talking about the graphics. Shared your site. And you have a couple of YouTube videos, I think, out there where you actually talk about the difference in your process. And of course, it was the highlight of the week, about your work as an illustrator with these middle schools. But there's always a way that we can bridge literacy with our other collaborative areas at the school. Before we let you go, I will ask, do you offer school visits, either in person or virtual? If any of the librarians want to reach out to you, and maybe even a small presentation such as this for students, or with their gifted students, would you talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean, I used to live in Brooklyn, New York, and this summer I moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I'm in the South too. And I actually go to Kentucky quite often to see my in-laws. So yeah, I'd be happy if ever anyone needs, something online or in person, I could possibly drive up there fairly easily. So yeah, I'd be happy, in the spring probably be good. Like I said, I'm on a tight deadline right now, but in the spring, I'd probably be more open to it. And that would be great. I would love to.
Awesome.
And just bouncing off what Tara said, is that the cool thing about these comics is, they are a little easier to read and understand, but there's also tons of novels, chapter books in the series as well. So when kids, if they're a reluctant reader and they start reading the comics, it could lead them to being more interested in more complex, bigger chapter books, because they're the same characters, but just, as a novel. So that's one of the cool things about this series, I think, particularly.
Awesome. Thank you again, even with your tight deadlines, for taking time to join us this morning and talk to our librarians. So thank you. And hopefully we'll see you in South Central Kentucky area soon in person.
Yeah, that'd be fabulous. Yes. And yeah, please let me know if anyone has any questions or if they want to reach out about a speaking engagement. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thanks again, James.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got about a 5-minute break here. If anybody needs to step away, get a coffee refill, check an email, do whatever, and we will return right back promptly at 10 o'clock Central for our next session on book vending machines going into our school. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Sam, Tara, great job. I'm gonna have to get off here for a few minutes and go join a couple of other meetings. So
Completely
all.
understand. Thank you again for joining. I hope you learned something about librarians today.
Man, well, you all are just doing great. I love this. I've only was able to jump in on a couple of these meetings last year. Seemed like I had a conflict every single time you all met, but y'all got some great presenters this morning, and so just great job.
Thank you. Thanks,
Dan.
All right, I've got right at 10 o'clock, so we'll jump right back into our schedule and planning. So next, I kept watching different social media at the beginning of the year and just so excited about what I was seeing going on with a couple of our different schools in the Grec area. And so I reached out. I was curious more than anything, but I thought surely to goodness others might be as well. So I reached out to Brandy Adams and Terry Cleaver about the new book vending machines they have brought into their schools. And so they're going to spend about the next 15 minutes with us talking about their process and how they acquired these and telling us about these phenomenal new reading engagement opportunities that we have or that their students and teachers have at school. So I'll turn it over to Terry and Brandy. Thank you all for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. This is Brandy Adams. Can you all see the screen I'm sharing right now? Is everybody good?
We sure can.
Okay, I had to unconnect and reconnect. I was having trouble with Zoom sharing. So I'm Brandy Adams. I'm at Warren Elementary School here in Bowling Green, Kentucky with Warren County Schools. And interestingly enough, Terry and I's districts literally touch. So we often share students back and forth. So I think it's kind of cool that both of the schools within the region that have these machines actually get to see a lot of the same students. So I'm going to let Terry introduce herself and then she's going to get started.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Terry Cleaver. I'm super excited to be with you all this morning. I'll let Brandy advance to, there's our information. If you need anything from us at the end, feel free to contact us. But wanted to talk to you about the purchasing process. So Brandy and I, we were basically the idea makers for our school, just threw this out to our family resource coordinators and go ahead and say at the beginning that we were both surprised with our book vending machines. So we weren't in on the initial process for our purchasing. My FRC coordinator came to me a couple of months after and said, I really liked your idea, and went with it, and I was super excited. And I think something similar happened over at Warren Elementary. So the company that we both went through is Global Vending, and they only have one book vending option. So it makes it kind of easy if you're interested in it. Again, it was purchased with the family resource funds. The deciding factors that you have is if you want a custom wrap. If you do, it's $500, or you can have them just do a stock wrap. And you'll see in our presentation later the different wraps that we have on our vending machines. You get to edit that wrap before you have approval, and our family resource coordinator was able to make a few tweaks, I think a couple of different times. The next bullet says, you know, it's the cost. I don't want anyone to be scared by this. I just threw it out there, and, you know, just, you never hurts to ask. And so it does cost between $5,000 to $6,000, and that includes shipping. It includes the different drawers that we'll talk about in a few minutes, but don't be scared by the cost. So shipping for our particular school, we ordered it in February and we received it in September. So it was a bit of a wait, and that has to do with the shortages and to do with COVID and that kind of thing with supplies.
Okay. For Warren Elementary, it was similar with the shipping as well. What we're going to talk about next is ways that we're each using our vending machines. Terry and I did talk before we got this presentation together, and we're both using the tokens that come with the vending machine very similarly. Warren Elementary is a leader in Me School, so currently we have weekly and monthly winners based on their lead tickets that they receive. I have a couple of primary winners, couple of intermediate winners each week, and then at the end of the month we draw out 5 winners from primary and 5 from intermediate. We don't currently use accelerated reader anymore at our school, but we are fixing to start one up called Reading Counts. It's very similar, where students take quizzes and they will begin to earn tokens that way as well for us at Warren Elementary.
And with our school, we're not a leader in Me School, but we do have Ambassadors of the Month, and we have another awareness program called Embrace Empathy. And so we draw 4 intermediate and 4 primary kids a month for the coins. We do use Accelerated Reader, and our kids have 11 opportunities to visit the book vending machine with Accelerated Reader. We also do Caught You Being Good tickets, and so we pull 6 of those a week. So we're giving out over 3,000 books in a year's time.
So what we'll talk about next is different ways that Terry and I have found at filling the vending machines with books. One of the first ones you can get, of course, is just donations. Once the word got out, for myself anyway, I had several local businesses reaching out to say, hey, what's a good way to get you books for your vending machine? What are you interested in? What are you looking for? So that's one way, once you get the word out, that you can get books for your vending machine. The 2 ways that I have explored are FACE and International Book Project. International Book Project, you just register for, and each one of those has the link to it that you can check on your own time. It doesn't take very long for the process, and I am going in November to pick up 28 boxes of books from International Book Project. I told them the age ranges, reading levels, and the interest that our students had. I don't know what's in the boxes yet. I'll find out in November, but 28 boxes of free books is exciting. I do have to travel to Lexington to get them. They will ship them, but you have to pay for the shipping cost, which can get expensive. The other one is called FACE. It's through Scholastic. It's called Family and Community Engagement. It is also free to sign up. And basically, Scholastic is just giving schools that have vending machines the opportunity to buy books at a more reasonable rate. For example, a book that is $4.99 you might get for, I think it was listed as $1.62. It is a very tedious spreadsheet that you have to look over. It's not visual, which for me is kind of hard, but it's a list of over about 600 different books that you can get at a discounted rate through Scholastic.
First Book is a little similar to FACE. It is for Title I schools. If you haven't explored First Book, you absolutely need to do that. They send out codes for free books. So you get books in quantity. So you might get like 48 books for $20 or something like that. And they have really quick shipping. Another option to choose for your books would be Scholastic Dollars. They also have the $1 monthly books. You cannot use your Scholastic Dollars for that any longer, but that's a cheap way to fill your book vending machine.
And you can see the picture images on this page, what our different wraps look like for both of the different schools. Okay, of course, getting it out there and promoting it on your different media platforms will be important. That is how I have gotten a lot of donations for my books. Like I said, just having it on social media, on your Twitter, having the local news stations come out to promote the vending machine for your school. I've been able to get donations as well. It's just important to get your schools out there and to see the great things that you're doing, and the vending machine is one of those options.
So recently, when our machine came, we had one component that didn't work. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about the customer service. When you first buy your vending machine, you're going to have a customer service rep that helps you with your purchase. You're also going to have someone that is going to help you with your shipping. And then you have your designer. As far as communication, there are emails, they have a phone contact. When I spoke to our representative to try to fix the component that wasn't working, I did a FaceTime call. He was very helpful. They have the components in the office so that you can, they'll model what you should be doing. And then for troubleshooting, there's a manual, there's videos, tutorials, and email correspondence. I will say that Brandy and I, and we'll talk about this in just a second, when we first got our machines, we were kind of in the dark about it. And so I did find out a couple of things that I did not know. So you have to be ready to ask questions and kind of be on your toes just a little bit with how your machine works.
And so we'll just discuss a few of the pros and cons. Again, like Terry said, mine was a surprise. My principal came up to me and said, hey, your vending machine's here. And I said, what vending machine? So it was kind of interesting how it showed up in the library in the first place. But it's tedious to get your books in the slots and make sure they fit the coils correctly. It's well worth it, but it is something you basically just have to figure it out as you go based on the books that you have that you're putting in the vending machine versus the way your vending machine is set up. It does come equipped, mine did, at least Terry, I don't know if yours was about the same, about 250 books roughly can be in the machine at any given time. The spirals are not to be changed. She and I had a conversation about this, about how it was a little bit challenging to figure out.
Yeah. So, and when I put that it wasn't communicated, I don't know if they communicated that to our family resource coordinator or the purchaser, but they do have different tray options, and our trays are just for like small picture books or chapter books. So if you wanted to put in a larger picture book or a medium-sized picture book, you have to buy a special tray, and those are $125 each. It promotes reading, so it gives us a connection to our school PBS program. Incentive opportunities with the reading program of choice. Probably one of the most exciting things is just the excitement that it gives to promote literacy in the building. When you give a kid a coin, you're telling them, hey, you know, go out and look at what books there are, and then, you know, decide. They already know. They walk past it a million times and they know exactly what book they're getting. But one that we didn't put on here that I think is very important, both of our schools' demographics are pretty similar. We have a lot of transient students, a lot of low socioeconomic students. So one of our goals was to make sure that we put books in the hands and homes of our students, so it was an alternative form for rewards.
That's true. It is definitely something that, even though I did not know it was coming to my school, I would highly recommend investigating into it and finding out if it's an option for your school. It has really increased the excitement in the library for the students that I noticed last year were not as interested in reading. It's visual, it's right there. They see their other peers getting the tokens, getting the books out of the machine. So it's just really upped the excitement in the library and promoting reading.
And then Brandy touched on, you know, the time is just maintaining your book supply, making sure that you're organized with the disbursement of your coins. Like if you're drawing names, making sure you kind of keep track, make sure you've done the Embrace Empathy or the Ambassadors of the Month, keeping that momentum going and that excitement going, which I think just seeing it as they walk past it every single day does that pretty well. The learning curve, keep your key close, because sometimes just like your chips get stuck in a vending machine, the kid's book gets stuck. And so, but they like that when that happens. The trick to that is to make sure that your books are pushed back a little bit. It does take two people when you're changing like out a tray, or if you have to work on the mechanics of it. And then just make sure that you maintain communication with Global Vending. They were super easy to work with when I called them on Friday.
So I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and if anybody has any questions, you guys can put it in the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to share this today.
Thank you guys. Such a neat, like I said, we all know kids love novelty. As adults, you know, I mean, the little claw games or the whatever it might be that you can find. So we definitely appreciate you all sharing it. And if it hooks readers and engages readers, are there anyone that has any other questions they would like to add or ask? Also, that we've included their email addresses on the agenda. If you think of something later, you can reach out to them. The
slide deck is now open to everyone. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that it was
okay.
It was restricted. Someone had asked to make sure they had access.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. So we've opened. But yeah, definitely thank you guys so much. And appreciate you all sharing with you. I can't wait to come by. I want to see it in person. I've seen the pictures, but I want to see it in person. So, all right, we will segue now into our next section. And we have Sam Northern going to talk to us about Digital Citizenship Week and share some resources.
Yes, I am. Thank you. I'm about to share my screen. So great to hear from everyone. This has been an amazing morning. I'm just so glad that you all have presented and attended. It's great to see 50 different people on the call. So thank you for your involvement. Let me see here. All right. Well, happy Digital Citizenship Week. Today is actually the big day, even though it is a celebration all week long. I'll talk a little bit about some resources and what got me so involved with digital citizenship as a leader, as possible for you to join in this program too. And so I'm going to highlight some resources that are my favorites and also some things that I've learned most recently from Common Sense Media. And so a lot of the resources I'm going to share is from Common Sense Media. This is my second year as a Common Sense Media ambassador, and it's a really great way to get involved with educators, a lot of librarians, but also other type folks, integrationists and ed tech and all that. So it's like an online digital program. So you have your own social media. It's called a Slack program, kind of like our Mighty Network for Castle, where people share what they're doing. And it's amazing what people will share, just like you all sharing your knowledge and information. It's just, I'll share some things that were shared with me as an ambassador, because why reinvent the wheel? It's so nice that folks from New York and other places are sharing cool things they're doing for not only Digital Citizenship Week, but just in general, how they're helping their learners become better users of technology in this learning environment. So this is the week, but if you're not celebrating this week because, life happens and it's tough, that's fine. You could still do this anytime you want. Because, in my school, we got a Red Ribbon Week coming up. There might be a homecoming week. There's Halloween coming up. So you might, this isn't the best time maybe. So you can make your own week. And so these resources can be used anytime you want. Some key things about Digital Citizenship Week are shared here from Common Sense. And these are great selling points whenever you're communicating with teachers, family, and students about why we're celebrating digital citizenship. It's a great way to kick off the school year, kick off projects. Your kids will be excited. There's fun programs and games. And then also you can go a lot deeper with how just modeling, how to be a digital citizen through some proactive steps on a continuous basis. But it kind of is like a jump start. So if you're at the point in the year where you've done a lot of housekeeping and you've got your kind of your routine in place, it might be okay. This would be a great way to engage learners from K through 12. So I'm at a school with first, second, third graders. And so there's programs and activities through Common Sense already provided that are broken down by grade and also broken down by content area and subject, so that you're helping those students develop those 21st century skills. And they get excited about it. It's a lot of fun for them. I'm going to share this short video about why we're using, Common Sense Media and celebrating digital citizenship. And it's something that you can always tweet out and share with your staff if you do a weekly focus or newsletter. Did you hear the sound? Okay, good. I thought I clicked the box, but just making sure. Okay, so that's just a minute video. It's easy to share. It's on YouTube, so you can put it in a Google slideshow like this. I'll be sharing my slide deck in the live agenda and also in the chat box. So you can make a copy and get any of the hyperlinks I'm going to discuss today. So don't feel like you got to catch up or keep up too much on that. This was, I thought, pretty cool. This is a Digital Citizenship Spirit Week. This was shared by another Common Sense ambassador on our program for us to be able to use. And so the link is highlighted, Digital Citizenship Spirit Week, because they also have Spanish versions of each of these days of the week. There's also different grade bands. And so this one's elementary, but they have a middle and high school if you want to do dress up days. And it pretty much kind of stays the same, but the core tenets at the bottom, the questions change somewhat. So it gives you an idea of different questions that you might ask students for those days of the week about relationships, literacy, management, balance, things like that. So like I said, we're doing dress up days next week for Red Ribbon Week. And so it might not be a great time to do 2 weeks back to back with dress up. So you might have your digital citizenship week another time, but you can make a copy of this resource anytime you want. Another cool resource that was shared was this digital citizenship bingo card. And it's on Google, so you can make a copy of it. And it really encourages teachers in their classrooms to engage in some professional learning, some activities they can do together. And then as they complete the bingo card, you can have raffles, drawings, they level up to get a certain prize. And so as they complete these hyperlinked activities, whether it be, they learn to use a new app or they complete a program certification, any of those type things, then you can get that back to you and you can recognize them with some kind of celebration. And then of course you can change and edit this any way you like once you make your own copy, because you might think, oh, 25 is too many. Maybe I just need to have like a choice board of 4. And so as you prepare for some type of digital citizenship week or celebration, I thought this would be a really cool thing to do. So I'm still working on my own version of it. I just saw this in the past week or two, but I'd like to see what you come up with. So please share as you develop your own. You saw in the video some different areas in which to start teaching students about digital citizenship. And so I really like how they have these labeled, and it's really positive. We're finding balance, we care. It's not don't or not. It's more about what we do with technology, how we credit resources, and how we protect intellectual property. And so some quick activities that you can engage your students in are Right Through Common Sense. They have K-5 quick activities, 612 quick activities, and they break those down by whether it's privacy or whether it's social media, and they come with videos, they come with printables, digital resources. And so it's really great to have these made for you in advance to modify. And so your teachers, if you're helping them teach their students, they'll feel a little more apt to do it knowing that it's already prepared for them, or if you have library classes. And again, these are hyperlinked too. Another really great resource is their curriculum crosswalk. I think this is awesome, and they've updated it recently. So this is hyperlinked, but here's a screenshot of what it looks like. And so you can see those key topics. You got your privacy, digital identity, communication, and then inside the document, it's hyperlinked to activities. And so it tells you what you can do for grade 1. There's a pause and think online activity in green, and what the essential question is. The topic goes back to an introduction. How technology makes you feel, and that goes back to media balance. And so I really like how the crosswalk connects age ranges with those key digital citizenship areas, and it's hyperlinked to those activities right from Common Sense. And also within that curriculum crosswalk, you can specify, social studies connections, science connections, ELA, math. And so that's been a really great tool if you're developing your curriculum or just looking for quick activities. This is not from Common Sense Media, but it's a really great resource called Wide Open School. And they have library resources curated by subject. And so there is emotional well-being, digital citizenship. And so when I clicked on digital citizenship, here's some examples of what they have. They have a back to school video for digital citizenship. They have a website with resources. And so, you can favorite that. This is all free. There's activities if you want to search. And so when you go to this Wide Open School website, which is linked here, so you should be able to click on that, then you can go to any of these things, virtual field trips. And so digital citizenship is here. And then you can provide other resources to your students and staff. All students and staff, I think, love interactive games. So one game that's fun for our students is Digital Passport. And you can do this without saving their work. So if you only see kids every, once a week, every other week, depending on if you're on a fixed schedule or not, it's a great way to engage them and to ask some of those essential questions from the crosswalk, giving them purpose for why they're doing that activity. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a game online they can do with their Chromebooks, no login necessarily required if you're not saving the work. So here is, you can see what it kind of looks like. So password protection, how we protect our privacy. And so those are little activities students can complete. Net Smart Kids, it's another great resource. It's not common sense, but it really has great messages that you can share about digital safety. They also have interactive games. Theirs is called Cloud Chaos. And again, it doesn't require a login for your students if you're not saving their work. So you can get students on an activity and you can, have them understand, what decisions their characters make in the game. And it's really easy to set up on Google Classroom or Schoology, Clever, however you get students on those programs. There's a middle school digital compass, and it too is through Common Sense, and it provides students with the game here, and they can play this digital compass. You can see a screenshot where, you can launch it from your browser on a Chromebook or on a computer, and it shows them how to, they choose their own path and how they're going to use technology. So it's kind of like a sim city of sorts where you kind of develop your characters and you make those decisions yourself, and students will love that. I thought this was really neat. So this is already some kind of pre-scripted social media and announcements for educators and administrators about Digital Citizenship Week. So when you get the slide deck, you can always copy and change this to make, however you want to do it. It tells about what Digital Citizenship Week is, what the resources are, how you can learn more through hashtags. There's also a family social media, kind of like a deck that you can use. And so it talks about, here's how we're going to celebrate. We have K2 packets in English and Spanish, 3-5 packets. And so, these are just all great things already made for you. So there is a lot of information from Common Sense Media, and they've shared a lot of presentations with the ambassadors. So I've tried to take some really useful and practical resources that you can do with your kids and share with your teachers in this short, 20 slide deck instead of some of those. But there is so much more on Common Sense. They're really pushing for social emotional learning and its connection with digital learning. And so on there, just going to Common Sense Media's website, you can see all the information they have about SEL too. If you're going to partner with your counselor, and you want to do things in that area too, because there's definitely a strong connection between citizenship and SEL with using technology tools. All right, that's all I have to share. Again, you can find all the resources on Common Sense Media. Hopefully some of these highlights were useful. Definitely the crosswalk, those quick activities, the games, and just, connecting with those families and those teachers as much as you can. If you're interested in being a Common Sense ambassador, it's a really great way to connect and learn with others and find out what other type programs there are for leaders and librarians. And so definitely check that out or reach out to me if you're interested. But I will put this slide deck link in the agenda in the chat box. Thank you all so much for your time, and let's keep learning.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Always a good topic, always one that a lot of times we are charged with making sure happens within our schools, or when teachers are seeking resources, we are that person to help them out. So we're moving right along. I was really kind of worried when we set the agenda for today. It was tight. We had so many things, but we've done a great job sticking to it and just moving right on through. So next on the agenda, we have talking about our new Kentucky academic standards for library media. And I will offer a disclaimer. We reached out to James Allen, our KDE State Library lead, and he is on an airplane on his way to Salt Lake City for AASL. And obviously, I guess he thought that was more important than joining us. So by default, you get me instead. But I will do my best to just chat a little bit about our new Kentucky academic standards for library media. Let me get to that and I will share my screen for it. You always think you have it ready to go and then you have to toggle tabs. All right, so again, these kind of rolled out towards the end of last school year once everything had gone through the Kentucky Board of Ed regulation process and had been fully adopted. They were then added, which I'll show you, to our official KY Standards website. And in my opinion, these are now providing us as librarians additional advocacy, additional leverage, showing that what we do with our learners each and every day is just as important as what's going on in other classes. Okay, I think it is a way for us to continue to advocate for what we do, being that lead learner in the center, in the hub of our school, being that collaborator with so many of our teachers in the other academics areas. And so the Kentucky Academic Standards for Library Media is basically a standards framework that was leveraged from the American Association of School Librarians Standards Framework for Learners. It consists of those 6 concepts or shared foundations, which are include, inquire, curate, collaborate, explore, and engage. So there's 2 I's, there's 2 C's, and there's 2 E's. That's always how I have to roll it through in my mind to think about it. They were written by Kentucky librarians. So there were grade bands that worked on the K2, the 3-5, the 6-8, and the 9-12. We do have several members of both the writing team and the oversight team right here in our GREC region. So we know we've got a lot of lead library learners down in our area, and they had a seat at the table when these were being written. There are also 4 standards categories or domains that fall under think, create, share, and grow. And so each learning priority within these standards outlines what a student should know and be able to do independently by the end of that grade band. So again, like I said, those grade bands are the K2 primary, the 3-5 intermediate, the 6-8 middle, and the 9-12 high school. And so they kind of are now giving Kentucky students a continuum and sequential framework of learning, and our librarians a framework for instruction. Okay, so as I mentioned, we are now official. We are on the kystandards.org website. If you do not have this site bookmark in your main taskbar, I highly recommend doing so, okay? Because this is your home for all things. I know when a teacher would want to come to me and need resources to support a standard, here's where you go, okay? It gives you verbatim all the standards written for Kentucky, and also the resources available that you can utilize for breaking down standards, for professional learning opportunities, for family guides as to if we need information to share with families about what their learners should be learning at each grade level. So definitely bookmark kystandards.org. When you click on Kentucky Academic Standards, you'll want to look at the part down there that says see my resources. I've got my bars in the way right here, so I'm not looking completely at what the exact terminology is. Let me make it bigger here for myself. Explore your standards. That's what it says. So there's a blue button that says explore your standards to the left, and then a to the right, an orange one that says your standard resources. So the blue explore your standards is where you're going to want to go. Here is where you find them, and you'll see down here in the bottom left is where our Kentucky Academic Standards for Library Media are now housed. Also, you'll see, for those of you that wear multiple hats, you've got your Kentucky Academic Standards for Technology right there next to us. But as I mentioned, when teachers are needing additional support, additional resources, this can become your go-to, okay? Then the other piece, those resources that are available, professional learning guides, or book studies ready to go that KDE has already done and put out frameworks for, progressions on what to do in breaking down standards, identifying priority standards. So all of that is available. Just a little bit of insight is to an example of what is included, okay? So when we look at our standards, one of the main things the writing team did was try to make sure that the way they were written was consistent with the way other standards had been written. So when we look at our reading, or when we look at our math, what was included. And so trying to keep up a grade band or a grade level, and then moving into a concept, and then moving over into the standard. A little bit different for us is we also have some learning priority and performance indicator in there. So this kind of shows you, this is a guide or a cheat sheet as to how we look at and read these standards. So they're in the grade bands. Again, the P for our primary K2 bands, an I for our intermediate grades 3-5, an M if it's our middle grades 6-8, and then an H if it pertains to our high school grades of 9-12. We then move into the concept, okay? That is the 6 shared foundations and the key commitments that are consistently extend through K-12. So this would be more or less, if we talk about vertical planning or vertical alignment, that's where that comes into. So you will always have an inquire in each grade band designated by an IQ. You always have an include designated each grade band with the IN. Collaborate is CL, curate is the CT, explore the EX, and then engage in the EG. Moving as we move more to the right, we're now moving into the standards with our 4 domains. Again, those are consistently extended throughout all grade bands, and whether they are thinking, creating, sharing, or growing, okay? Now we actually move into each of the learning priorities. So the learning priorities, when joined in with the domain, kind of create this measurable learner statements. These are broken down into manageable learning competency statements. When they were written in a format that for so many of our districts that are utilizing learning targets or success criteria or learning intentions, they can be formulated into that. I've done an extensive amount of work when I was with Barron County, working with Dr. John Elmroad in his Clarity for Learning book. I'll offer a little shout out for this. If you want to dive deeper with you yourself or with you, your teachers, into really deconstructing standards and creating those meaningful learning intentions and scaffolded success criteria that basically communicate to your learners the steps they need to take to reaching the depth and mastery of their standard, highly recommend turning to this. But then we move on into that performance indicator as our last piece of the standard. It's that measurable degree to which the standard has been developed. It is non-sequential or scaffolded, okay? So just keeping that in mind. So just for a little bit of insight here, I've seen a few things come across the listserv. I need learning targets, or I need this. And so just working with some of the librarians when I was in Barron County and we kicked off the Clarity for Learning, Dr. Hattie's, leveraged on Dr. Hattie's visible learning. Now that I've been at Englehard working with the faculty here on that, I took the K2 primary think, okay, and just kind of worked out a very brief. Okay. Now, again, every administrator, every district has their own criteria that they want into how that should be. But just to kind of show a little bit of an example, okay, a little disclaimer here, possibly wrong, definitely incomplete. Okay. But this just kind of shows you how we can work within that think standard. Okay. We're learning to think. What does that mean? You may have an administrator that wants you to dive deeper into that, okay? We're learning about being a community of learners. Could be another learning target or learning intention. And then by taking those 2 priorities along with the performance indicators, we can now create a scaffolded progression that we want to move our learners through within this so that they know they're successful when they can listen respectfully. That's leveraged from that first one. When they can participate in discussion, again, leverage from learning priority 1. Recognize peer contributions. I know in a lot of schools that I'm in, they use the opportunities to respond. So a student communicating, I agree, or I've got a question. That's recognize peer contributions. Again, leverage from that first learning priority. Then when we move on into learning priority 2, they can determine fact from opinion, and they can discuss point of view and make cultural connections. Notice that in this grade band, it says with prompting and support, with guidance and support. we want to move our learners towards getting to this point independently, but especially in kindergarten and even in first grade and probably the early part of second, we're offering that prompting, that guidance, and that support as we're getting to this, because this is the expectation by the end of the grade band. Okay. As we move on, also just digging into anytime something's new, we want to reach out, we want to crowdsource, we want to work with one another on what's available. So James Allen has created a Google site that has information out there available for you guys to look at, to see. We want to make sure that, again, when we're thinking about these, that the contents of the standards are being utilized in two ways. We want them to be personalized guides for both learners and librarians to enter into the standards at the point most appropriate to their learning, to the learning task, or to their activities, to kind of guide them to make decisions about what's being included, to work on developing those specific competencies, and to also, again, provide that scaffolded progression as the learners go through the domains and that. So within this site, he has pulled a multiple amount of resources. He's included on that page a set of standards that show grade level progressions, along with some various implementation ideas, again, that have been crowdsourced from Kentucky librarians already diving in and contributing. There's also a blank version of different slides that you can use for your own planning or for your own reflection, or if you have something that you can then share with administration, with your instructional learning team as to what you're doing in the library and why it's important to the overall academic and growth of all learners in your building. He's also added in some resources from both Wyoming and Arkansas that may be helpful as you dive into deconstructing those standards or creating professional growth plans for yourself. The ALA store continues to add to what they also have available. As I mentioned at the beginning, the Kentucky standards were leveraged from the AASL standards. And so the AASL has published now all 6 shared foundation series of books. That's a lot to say, sorry. And they kind of bring together like a chorus of school librarians, various scholars, students that represent a wide range of experiences, identities, ethnicities, races, and each individual one offers an understanding of why this concept is paramount to school librarian practice, why it's supported in research, why there's an explanation of how it might look like to successfully integrate each of these shared foundations in terms of your collection and the space that you have within your instructional constraints. There's usable guidance that you can use to kind of incorporate each of these into moving forward with easy implementation ideas to hopefully lead to further transformational learning within your library. They've also got additional things like, I know they've offered like a set of window clings now that you can buy that kind of show the 4 domains and the 6 foundations. You could probably just as easily create these for your own. But again, as I say every time we meet, you have to be your own advocate. For most of you, you are a singleton in your building. And a lot of people don't know what goes on all day, every day, and all the magic that happens behind the scenes. So if you're not advocating for yourself, who is? And so if this is a way that you can, talk about what students are learning, what they are engaging in, the kind of deep thinking, the growing, the creation that's taking place, the next level learners that we're developing, definitely reach out and do that and promote yourself, okay? To segue next right into our next, I'll add this slide deck with the link, hyperlinks onto our slide deck for you. We are now going to move into the next key piece that I wanted to bring about. So I saw where, again, through social media, Enid Woldstein really did a wonderful professional learning opportunity with the Jefferson County librarians. And I was like, okay, we need that. We need to know how down in the GREC region, we can leverage all of the amazing resources KYVL offers to then implement our new Kentucky Academic Standards for Library Media. And if she doesn't talk about it in her presentation, I will then at the end follow up with now how every school district can have access to Kentucky Virtual Library for all of their learners. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Enid Woldstein. Thank you for joining us.
How's everybody? Okay, I'm just here for a moment with video. I'm going to turn that off and share my screen. Am I awesome? Okay, so as always, please, please, please stop me with questions. I love questions. Let me minimize that. Okay. Yeah, so as Tara said, I did this presentation for Jefferson County. I am doing it again tomorrow for Eastern Castle, and then in a couple weeks for Northern Castle. And basically what we did was go through the new standards and look for where KYVL fit. And as Tara said, this year, KDE is using federal funds to reimburse districts their membership fee for KYVL. So there's absolutely no reason not to do KYVL this year. They're also hopeful, but they don't know for certain yet. They're also hopeful that they can do it next year as well. So what I'm going to do, everything that I'm going to talk about is available on kyvl.org. So if you come to KYVL, go to For Librarians and the Librarians Toolbox, and then over here to Handouts and Outlines. And then I have my presentation out here. I've got a PowerPoint version and a Google Slides version. And then in the presentation, I reference and link to all of these other things that are available. So let's open the Google Slides, make a copy. And we'll start in presentation mode. So where does KYVL fit? We identified the 4 domains where we fit. So you can find some opportunity to teach KYVL, whether it's think, create, share, or grow. And these concepts, it's not all of them, but most of them, inquire, include, collaborate, curate, and explore. And these are the concepts. So I've listed them here, and it's across all grade bands. So I've left out that piece of it. Oh, thanks, Katrisa. All right, so the first one, using evidence to investigate questions, engaging in sustained inquiry, taking a discerning stance towards points of view and opinions. So doing that media literacy and really digging into the source, identifying possible sources of information, seeking a variety of sources, diverse perspectives, and again, identifying possible sources of information, reading widely and deeply in multiple formats. We have so much fiction and nonfiction for students to access. Responsibly applying information. All right. So you've probably seen this before, but just in case, this is our K-12 resources at a glance poster. It's 11 by 17. I have it now in PDF on the librarian's toolbox. It's here, this K-12 resources overview poster. And it basically breaks down what we have for K-12. Currently, I left off Academic Search Complete. That's geared more towards AP and dual credit students. But I do need to add that back in because it is a valuable resource for those higher level students. So it tells you what's in the particular research database on the left side. And then the right-hand side is more related to the tools. So text-to-speech, translation, Lexile, getting citations, and Google Classroom integration. And then right around when school started, I created a series of slide decks, and these are also in the librarian's toolbox. So let's look at the elementary. And I've linked to a PowerPoint, particularly for this. So this is something that you can use to introduce teachers and administrators to KYVL. So the logo, hold on a sec. The logo is a link. So you could do a live presentation, or you can send this out. And what I've done is just given some details about the resource. So what is Explora? And what are some features with Explora? Google Classroom and Drive integration, there's citations. It has a mix of resources from encyclopedia articles to primary sources, magazines, biographies, ebooks, and nearly 7 million items, which I did not know until I put this presentation together back in August. Pardon me. Ebooks, K through 8 collection from EBSCO. There's over 15,000 titles. Diary of the Wimpy Kid is in the K through 8 collection from EBSCO. And if you didn't know, all of our ebook collections, we have 3, there are no limits on simultaneous users. So if you were looking to put together a unit on a topic and you needed nonfiction, you could go through the K through 8 collection and find nonfiction books and then just link to different chapters. That is absolutely something you can do. If you don't know how to do it, get in touch with me at kyvl@ky.gov and I can walk you through it. We've got a slide on Tumble Book Library and then just things to know. So this one is not a very long presentation. The high school one is a little bit longer. Let me open that up. So then, so the high school, we talked about the basics. Britannica School, Awesome Encyclopedia. And then I didn't want to leave out the admissions test prep for ACT and AP exam prep. And then the ASVAB is in there as well. Explora for high school, nearly 60 million items are in Explora for high school. It's a great place to start a research journey. Gale in Context. And again, all of these logos are linked. And then we have scavenger hunts. I did not link to each and every item, but they are in that librarian's toolbox. So let's look at the elementary 3 through 5. And lots of links in this document. I've debated putting it into a quiz, a Google quiz type form. But some of the answers are open-ended and I'm just not sure what to do about that. So if having this as a Google Doc, you know, a Google quiz, let me know if that's of interest. And then I can work on that. I would be happy to do that. So all the logos are links. And then, you know, let's look at articles from magazines on climate change. So we're in primary search. We search for climate change. I know that's kind of small. And then I try to update these every few months because the resources obviously and the results will change. So right now they're looking for this article, Stopping the Sahara, from Scholastic Dynamath. And then what's the article about? Look at the second page. What is the first box about? Get the citation, that sort of thing. And then all of these have the answer key that go with them. You know, I'll share this presentation, but it's also, again, in our librarian's toolbox. And then it explains how to find the handouts, and then I've got links. We also have a YouTube channel with all kinds of how-tos. So I can look at the elementary playlist. And some of these are a little bit longer. We are working on a website redesign. So I've been a little bit hesitant to make anything new the last few weeks. But always, if there's something that you need that you don't see, let me know and let me try to make something for you. Oh, that's awesome, Carrie. And I love everybody's comments. I love hearing what you're doing. So some of these are 10, 12 minutes. And there are longer presentations that I've done for school districts that I've recorded. So we've got a couple here. This ebooks collections for K-12, I think, was a summer refresher session that is out there. We've got a Britannica school overview that's 4 minutes. But I need feedback really desperately. So if you see something and you like some of it, but not all of it, please tell me. I really, really, really want to hear from you and make these the most useful that I can. We also have, under the playlist, we've got a general playlist. We have college, high school, middle, and of course the elementary. And then our information literacy work group has been working on a resource gallery. So they've been doing a crosswalk between the Kentucky Academic Standards for Library Media and the ACRL framework, which is post-secondary. So you can see what the national standards, the AASL standards are, and what the post-secondary standards are for a particular topic. And those crosswalks are available. I've got a link to them just to make it easy. They are on our information literacy workgroup webpage. but it's just easier to get to them from this presentation. So we've got the grade bands and then the different standards. So that can be super helpful. And so the information literacy gallery is live, but I would say it's more in beta because it needs to be built. We've put maybe 20 objects in there. So let's look at that. So here's the cute little logo. If you want to submit something, we would love that. We've got a link here at the bottom of the page for submission. But let's just browse and see what we have. So we've got the grade bands here on the left side. So you can pull up objects if you were looking for middle school. We have some resources here using textual evidence to support arguments. And I can open that. And then here is the link to the item at the top of the page. And this is a little icky. We're working with the vendor to try to make that link a little prettier, and sometimes the link is really short and it gets overlooked. So we're just trying to make that more visually appealing. But I can follow that link to the item. I can see what it is, the description. I can see the CAS standards here for library media and what it applies to. Excuse me, getting over a cold. So I can go back and I can search by concept, and you can see the number to the side in parentheses, how many items are available for that concept. And it has both the library media CAS standards, ACRL standards, or you can go straight to the standard and see what's available there. So let's click on this one. And we've got a couple of things available. These are actually links to YouTube videos that I've done. But if I click into this, I've got just a screenshot and then all the standards and what KYVL database or resource this includes. So that's also part of the submission process. So looking for things that will help teach KYVL. And so one of the items in your submission is what KYVL database does it cover? I'm going to check chat. Okay. Oh, I'm done. Okay. So what can we do for you? Lots of things. Just tell me what you need. I am here for you. We may be a very tiny staff, but I would much rather be working on things I know you need than try to imagine what you need. So I'm going to turn my video back on, I hope. Okay. Does anybody have questions? Let me go back through the chat. Oh, hey, Pamela, if you go to kyvl.org, let me show you. For librarians, librarians toolbox, then handouts and outlines. The presentation's right here. There's a Google slide version that you can make a copy, and then there's a PowerPoint version. All right. Any other questions?
As always, Enid is a wealth of information and a phenomenal resource to us. I cannot say how many times I have reached out, and she will even do a training, do a Zoom with your staff.
Yes.
If your principal is willing to give you the time, you tell her how long and she'll cater it to meet the needs. Long, it definitely is something to hook them and bring them in and provide that to students and to teachers to utilize. I've seen a lot of chat and information in the slide deck about using this with high school, but we all know getting our younger learners used to researching good, valid sites ties back into our digital citizenship that Sam spoke about. So showing them that, there's a vetted place to go for that good research, how we can work on finding what's needed. As you mentioned, the eBooks that are available out there. So we do appreciate you taking the time. A lot of this legwork on the standards implementation resources done for us ahead of time. Any other questions for Enid? I've seen a couple of others pop in here. Yes, so she's included her email on there. We'll get that on there. So thank you again. And we'll try to go ahead and add that PowerPoint or the slides link on our agenda as well. So it's an easy
great
shop from today, if that's okay, Enid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Sam. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, so a jam-packed day, little ahead of schedule, but that's good. I know we can always use a few extra minutes in our time. I do want to take just a moment and go back to a few of our announcements before we close up. I want to give a shout out to a GREC librarian, Miss Sharon McCubbins at Cumberland Trace Elementary. Was just recently included in the article that I have linked there. And so when you get a moment, I definitely encourage you to take a look. It talks about how school librarians are evolving or how they have evolved over time. It includes her on there. And we all know that Sharon has been an advocate for librarians for a long period of time. She's been a great thought partner throughout my years. She's contributed with our GREC LMS Network as a presenter and contributor multiple times. And last week, I was a little, kind of nostalgic when I saw an email that told us that she's decided to move on to bigger and better things via retirement at Christmas. And so at this point, I just want to say thank you, Sharon McCubbins, for everything that you have done for librarians. She is one of those that I mentioned earlier, serving on our Kentucky Academic Standards for Library Media Writing team. And we definitely appreciate your insight and your wisdom and your contributions throughout the years. We definitely knew that you would already be gone by the time we had our next one. And so while you still have just a couple more months and weeks with us in that phenomenal new Cumberland Trace library that you that was just built and you opened, we do wish you best of luck. And if you would like to speak, please join in. But I won't put you on the spot if you don't want to. I was also told that she had mentioned that if there's anybody out there that might know of someone interested in her position, you can reach out to her for more information. The district will be posting it and it will be available. I think her official retirement date starts January 1. So I'm not sure if how they'll be doing with that. The school will be making those decisions. But if you know somebody, Cumberland Trace, like I mentioned, just built a phenomenal new school, brand new state-of-the-art library that is gorgeous. So reach out to Sharon. Make sure you sign in on the link that we have provided. That's how you will get your attendance certificate for today. There's a quick link for an attendee survey. Won't take you very long, just a few things as Sam and I work to plan our winter meeting and our spring meeting. We just kind of want to have some input from you guys as the participants as to what you prefer, what works best as we start planning those. Definitely mark your calendars, save the dates for our winter network meeting will be on February the 1st. And our spring meeting is scheduled for April the 21st. Also, make sure you keep this link for today's agenda handy. A recording will be added to the very top up here where it says link to the recording. We've been recording, so we will add that in. It usually takes our great magic magicians behind the scenes about 7 to 10 days. That will be added. Just a few other things that I wanted to share with you guys and announce before we jump off. ALA just released a new advocacy poster for school librarians. So again, as things come up throughout the year, please feel free to join. I don't know why it's not letting me in. So I'm having these new KDE filters. Yep. But it worked last night. Definitely check out that new poster. They're always working behind the scenes to give us resources. If that's something you can just kind of, slide in on a site-based meeting, stick it in mailboxes of site-based members or admins, definitely talking about your value to the school. The School Library Journal Summit is free this year and available to everyone. Way back when I had the opportunity to attend the in-person one in Philadelphia, I can't begin to tell you the amount of learning that took place. This year's theme is in community, but they're opening it up and offering it free. So I highly recommend, I've included the link there where you can go sign up. You can look at the schedule, even if it's something where you need to pop in and out or hit key topics throughout the day. Dr. Melissa Gardner, middle school librarian up in Kenton County here in Kentucky, is serving as a panelist on the trauma-informed library services session from 3 to 3:45 Eastern time that day. Definitely continue to check out KYL chat each week. The next one is scheduled for next Tuesday at 7 Central and 8 Eastern. Each week there is a new topic. If you can't log in at that time, definitely go back, look at the threads via the hashtag the next day. If you would like to volunteer to be a moderator, James has a form linked there to where you can join in and serve as a moderator. As Deidre mentioned earlier, a couple of save the dates coming up for the Castle Mid-Autumn meeting for members, Tuesday, November 9th, and then next year's summer refresher in Ashland is the X marks the spot, seek and discover the hidden gems in our Kentucky libraries. We definitely want to thank our partners at KET. I know Amy and Kathy sometimes try to join in. I saw them in and out earlier. I don't know if they're still on now, but we are so thankful for our continued contributions and partnerships with our KET folks, and they have extended our access to the School Library Connection subscription this year. So make sure you definitely check that out. The username is Kentucky Password Libraries, and then select your school district. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to Kathy and to Amy. We're running a little bit ahead here. If any of you ladies have anything you want to add or give a shout out while we've got a few extra minutes before logging off, I will say go for it.
Hey, Amy here. I don't know if, oh, my camera's covered up. I don't know if Kathy's on or not, but we really value the partnerships that we have with you all. We have a few things coming up that I think Kathy has talked to the board about. We are right now sort of revamping our Young Writers Contest. So if you have any suggestions, things you wish we would do with that contest, things you wish we would change, lose, whatever you want to do, our door is completely wide open for that contest this year. You know, that normally occurs in the spring months, so January through April-ish. So we're making final plans for that. So any changes you would love to see, please reach out and let us know, because we are, if we need to rock the boat this year, we feel like this is the year to do it, just one more thing, right?
Right.
But, you know, as always, if there's ever anything you need from PD to student workshops to just, hey, you know, I have teachers working on this standard. What do you all have through maybe PBS Learning Media or whatever it is? You all know, just reach out and connect with us. We are always happy to help in whatever way we can.
We're also very thankful for your all's continued support. Thank you. The KISD conference, we know a lot of times that librarians also play multiple roles, wear dual hats, and so they're looking for presenters for the spring 22 conference. Deadline to submit is November 1st. Again, that's another avenue for advocating for yourself, what you do, how you're employing those digital learning opportunities for learners, collaborating with teachers, and share that out, promote yourself, promote what's happening in your buildings. Also, I saw a question in the chat about other meetings. And so when we talk about, let me stop my share right here. Okay, I saw in the chat here about other additional Zoom meetings. That's actually one of the questions in that attendee survey that we've asked you to complete. You know, when we first had to roll to our spring of 2020 meeting in this format, we didn't know what it would be like. And then when we did it all of last year, we saw the good. We had a great attendance. We had the opportunity of being able to have presenters that couldn't physically be present. So that's been great. But we also know that we missed those networking opportunities to actually see and be in person with our colleagues. And so that's one of the things we kind of just want to get some feedback from you all as to what the preference of the group might be. So, you know, and again, that's always hinging upon too on whether or not conditions would allow that at the time for those other dates we have listed. So another shout to please fill out that survey. And hey, 14 minutes early today. You might could have an extended restroom break or luncheon if you're already have it penciled out in your schedule. So again, guys, thanks for jumping on. Apologize for the hang up and you know, the direct invite not getting sent out as early as it sometimes does. Little hang up as we move. And each year when we're transitioning to new lists and new people, it happens. We thank you for being patient. We thank you those that have joined on. A shout out to the large group that got together as a professional learning network there at the public library branch together. Hope y'all have a great day of extended learning. And again, thank you all for joining us. We enjoy doing this and enjoy the contributions you all make.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.